not proud of the thought that crossed my mind as we stood on the south rim, but there it was. If I let go of her hand, the wind might take the rest. She laughed while I tightened my grip, a bright sound that bounced off rock and sky. Less than 24 hours later, back in Phoenix, she pulled the same hand from mine in our kitchen and said, "Let's talk tomorrow," then dragged a second blanket to her side of the bed like a boarder. Tomorrow didn't show up. The desert heat did. We'd done everything right, or I thought we had. Small ceremony, backyard strings of light, carne asada from my friend Luis's cousin, who runs a truck off 27th Avenue. A week later, a quick post-wedding drive to the Grand Canyon. We stood on the overlook while strangers took our photo, her head tilted against my chest, the canyon at our backs like a postcard glued to our lives. She was 30 and golden, a media manager for a luxury real estate group, the kind that shoots drone videos of houses with glass walls and cacti that look staged. I was 39, grease in my fingerprints, even after a shower, owner of a little shop off McDowell with a faded sign that read, "White Sands Auto." We were a good story you could tell at a barbecue. The girl who knew light and angles, and the guy who knew how to make the metal heart of anything beat again. Back home, I kissed her cheek in the kitchen. The tile was cool under my bare feet, the AC straining against a 105-degree afternoon. She flinched. It wasn't a big movement, but I fix machines for a living, and I know the difference between a thing that's cold because it's supposed to be, and a thing that's cold because something sudden inside it snapped. She smiled, only with her mouth. "Travel takes it out of me," she said. "Let's sleep. Tomorrow, we'll talk." We didn't talk tomorrow. We didn't talk the next day either. We moved around each other like people speaking different languages in the same house. She started tucking the end of her blanket under her shoulder like she was bunking in a dorm. The first time I woke and reached for her, my hand met cotton wall. "Night, Rye," she said from the other side. Soft, final. I told myself it was jet lag, even though we'd driven 4 hours and back. I told myself it was hormones, or moon phases, or Mercury in retrograde, which I don't believe in, but I would have believed in Atlantis if it would have brought her back over that invisible line between us. I told myself anything that felt less like the truth I've seen in engines and men. Something seizes, and if you ignore it, the whole system shreds. She fell into her work like a person falls into a pool in August. Her calendar was a carnival of color blocks. Broker tour at 10, content at 1, Twilight showing at 7. "It's the season," she said. "Out-of-staters with cash." She said that with a little rolling of her shoulders, like the world had opened a door just for her. She came home smelling like other people's gardenias and pool chlorine, hair twisted into a clip, phone face down on the counter with the black screen reflecting a ceiling light. "Tell me about the canyon," my mom said on the phone the first week back. "It was good," I said. "How's married life?" "Good." "Good," she repeated. I could hear her breathe. "Well, your father says you can borrow the smoker if you want to do ribs for Sunday." "Maybe," I said. I stared at the second blanket. "I'll see." I left the house before sunrise most days because Phoenix in summer is like a giant oven that someone misread the recipe for and set to broil. I'd stand in the shop bay at 7001 a.m., doors rolled up, pulling air through like lungs before the heat pushed back. We had a swamp cooler that should have retired with Reagan, but it still hiccuped out relief over my shoulders as I leaned under hoods. At 9:40 p.m., I'd pull into the driveway, the gravel snapping under the tires like cereal, and step into the cool of our place to the sound of the AC running and the quiet slam of a cabinet. Sometimes she was there on the couch with her laptop open, airdropping photos from a shoot. House with a lighted pool. House with a camelback view. House with a wine room like a museum for bottles. She barely looked up when I kissed the top of her head. "How was it?" I asked. "Non-stop," she said. "People are wild. A guy showed up barefoot to a 3.2 million listing. I had to crop out his toes." I laughed. She didn't. She scrolled. Blue light washed her face until it was a color I didn't recognize. The first fight came easy and quiet, like monsoon thunder you think is far away until rain slaps the windshield. I made us dinner steak and a salad because I'd been trying to eat like people do in magazines, not like a man who thinks Doritos are a food group. She pushed the salad around with her fork and looked at her phone every time it buzzed. "Hey," I said, "be with me a second." "I am," she said. The phone buzzed again. "I just need to—" I held out my hand. "Give it 10, no screens." She looked at the plate, then at me. "This is controlling, Ryan. It's 10 minutes, and I have clients." "You're off at some point," I said. "You can't be on all the time, Jenna. That's not human." "Then maybe I need to be more than human," she snapped. Silence after that. The kind that leaves a low-frequency hum in your chest. At 10,022 p.m., she got up and rinsed her plate. "I'm showering," she said. I watched water snake along the counter to a cup ring and disappear. 3 days later, she was out late for a twilight showing and sent me a picture from a yard looking over the city. Phoenix like a spread-out circuit board, tiny lights soldered into dark. She captioned it, "Long day, good light," and put a sparkle emoji, even though she told me once she hated sparkle emojis because they were lazy. She got home at 11,005 p.m., toes wet in her sandals, laughing into her phone. She saw me and put the phone in her bag. We kissed the air. "What is this?" I asked when we were both in bed, lights off, the AC whispering. "Baby, what is this thing we're doing?" "I'm tired," she said into her pillow. "Don't make me talk now." "Okay," I said, because I fix cars, not people, and I didn't know where to put my hands. If you've never lived through August in Phoenix, you should know this. Everything hums. Power lines, bugs, the air itself, even the light hums. The city turns into a mirage. People start to do things just to feel alive again. Walk through the grocery store freezer aisle for too long, take extra showers, sit in their cars with the AC blasting and radio on low, singing to songs they didn't think they liked. I started noticing small, sharp things, like how the gate call log in our community app, a dumb thing I ignore most of the year, showed guest entries stamped late. I only checked it because the HOA sent some nonsense notice about after-hours traffic. Thursday, 12,042 a.m. Friday, 1,030 a.m. The guest names line read delivery, but the gate's names line read delivery. "Who was that?" I asked the next morning. I kept my voice even. In my world, over-torque a bolt and you strip it. Don't over-torque your life. She poured coffee. "Vendors," she said. "Pool guy forgot a skimmer. Photographer needed to pick up a lens. People are flaky." "After midnight?" "It's cooler," she said. She smiled, only with her mouth again. "You know how it is." Our deadbolt is smart. It records when codes are used, and it saved me from sleeping in the driveway more than once. I'd programmed codes for me, her, and my cousin Nico, who comes by to feed my dog when we go out of town. That week, I saw a couple entries that didn't fit. Code, Jenna. Time, 12,005 a.m. Another one at 1:27. I stared at the log like a rookie tech stares at a blown head gasket and thinks, "That can't be right. The car was just running." Maybe it's a glitch, I thought. Everything's a glitch if you want it to be. The doorbell camera chimed. The polite little tone I'll hear in my bones even when I'm old. A man in a baseball cap stood feet off the mat, like he knew where the lens coverage fell. He didn't ring. He waited. My stomach did the thing it does when I'm under a dashboard and the car shifts on the lift. Weight moves, and a part of your brain tells you if you don't get out quick, you'll be crushed. The footage was from 2 nights ago. I scrubbed forward with my thumb until the screen split into gray static, and then her silhouette entered the frame. She opened the door just enough. She stepped into him, not like you greet a delivery, like you step into shade after crossing a parking lot in noon. The way your body thanks the relief. Their mouths met, quick, like thieves. She tugged him inside. The door clicked. I didn't breathe for a count of 10. I pressed the side of the phone until the glass warmed under my finger. I make my living on sounds and signs. The whine that tells you a belt is an hour from snapping. The rattle that tells you a loose heat shield will sing at 60 MPa. I sat there and listened to my house, and it didn't sound like mine. That night, she came back at 11,030, cheeks pink, hair damp. Water heater in Paradise Valley went out, she said. The poor sellers, mid-shower. Can you imagine? I can, I said. She set her bag down and came to kiss my forehead. You're quiet, she said. I'm thinking, I said. About what? About code logs, I said, and rings at doors. I watched her face, not to catch her, to see her, maybe for the first time in weeks. Her eyes ticked to the side like a person glancing at an exit. Don't start, she said. I can't with this right now. With what? With suspicion. With this energy. It's too much. You're too much. This is the part where people write posts online about calm confrontation and sticking to facts, like they're instructing you on how to install an alternator. I wish I were that clear. I wish I'd had a printout. I had heat, and the sound of my own blood in my ears, and a lifetime of being told men are rocks until they crack in half. Who is he? I said. My voice sounded more tired than angry. That surprised me. What am I missing here, Jenna? We went to the rim, and now we're in a hole. What happened? She set her jaw, the little muscle that flutters there the way a fast idol flutters a needle. I'm exhausted, she said. You drain me. Your shop, the grease, the smell of it on your skin. I thought I could be okay with that. I thought I could be the girl who goes to rockabilly shows with her mechanic husband. I'm not. Then what are you? I asked. The question tasted like coin. Someone who wants more, she said. Someone who wants the world, who wants a life that looks like it feels as good as it looks. She backed away, then smiled, only with her mouth. We'll talk tomorrow. Tomorrow, I said, and something in me sat down on the floor with its back to the wall. The next day, I threw myself at work like a person who's drowning throws himself at a rope. I stayed late and watched the sun hemorrhage pink through the bay doors. Luis wandered over from the paint shop next door, lifted his chin at me, and said, You good? I swallowed. When you painted the '68 Chevy last month, did you know it was a farewell present? For who? Me, I said. From myself. He slid a Coke across the workbench. We cracked the cans and went outside to sit on the curb before the asphalt turned into a skillet. The city hummed. You need anything, he said, you say. On my break, I scrolled Jenna's work account. She posted a story at 7:18 the night before. Twilight luxury vibes. A shot over a pool with LEDs that made the water look like an alien lake. The sky in the picture was still light. Anyone from here knows that at 7,018 in late summer you've got glow. But the app tags told another story. The metadata, the automatic timestamp most people never see, said 9:43 p.m. 2 hours and change off. That happens when you upload later, or when you turn off location and mess with time, or when you schedule, or when you want people to imagine you somewhere else. I'm not a detective. I'm a man with fingers that can feel a bent valve by the way a plastic cover buzzes when you touch it. But tech is just clocks and little lies removed. I went to our bank app and saw 2 Venmo cash outs to an account called Leastaging, one for $275, another for $480. There were also 2 Uber charges that had never been there before, the little gray car icon almost smirking at me. One pickup near a bar in Old Town, drop off on a side street in Paradise Valley. Another pickup from the same side street at 4,012 a.m., back to Midtown. Leah, I remembered. was a stager who had an Instagram full of white tulips and throw blankets that cost more than my first car. I rubbed my eyes. The swamp cooler chugged. At 1:13 a.m., the deadbolt log said, "Code, Jenna." I pictured the way she'd opened the door, how she'd moved inside the man-like shade. There is a part in me that likes small, clean answers. I hate that part sometimes. I decided I couldn't live in maybe. Maybe makes you build houses on sand. I texted a number I found on the open house flyer for that Paradise Valley listing. I said I was a buyer, interested in previewing off-market inventory. I dropped the name of an agent I knew from Jenna's stories, someone who wore suits that looked expensive but hungry. He replied in 6 minutes and a sentence with too many exclamation points. Sunset preview. Private, clients by referral, RSVP. I RSVP'd. I put on the one shirt in my closet that even thought about the word tailored and drove across the city while the heat came off the pavement in sheets. The house had the kind of driveway that tells you not to touch anything unless you can replace it twice. Lighted pool, stone that looked imported, a kitchen island the size of my first apartment. Laughter bounced off glass walls. I recognized two faces from real estate. TikTok. If money makes a sound, this place had perfect acoustics for it. And there she was, Jenna. Her hair in that clip, the gold chain I'd given her on our wedding day catching the last slant of sun. She was talking to a man by the pool, his hand on the small of her back. His watch looked like a moon with a leather strap. He leaned in to say something low, and she tilted her head and laughed like she had at the canyon. If I were a different kind of guy, I would have marched across the travertine and said something cinematic. If we were in a movie, I would have flung a ring into the water and it would have made a perfect note when it hit. I was me, and I hate making scenes. I also believe in letting a head gasket fully blow if it's going to, so you can rebuild clean. I walked into the kitchen. There's always a stack of business cards at these things like badges you're allowed to take. I took his. The name was simple and old money. The brokerage on the bottom was one of the ones with single-syllable words and a logo that looks like it should be stitched on suits. "Can I help you with something?" another agent said. Green eyes, tan lines you get from open houses and tennis. "I love the kitchen," I said. "I'm looking for something with storage. I own a shop." "A shop?" She said it like I'd said, "I own a lizard farm." "Auto," I said. "I rebuild. My ideal life is a clean bay and a backyard that doesn't feel watched." She smiled with only her mouth. Paradise Valley isn't really unobserved. "Yeah," I said. I tucked the card in my pocket. "So I'm learning." Jenna didn't see me. Or she did and decided I was a ghost she could power through. The man with the moon watch put a hand on her hip and pointed at the mountain like he owned all of it. She nodded, eyes big. People don't cheat because they're hypnotized. They cheat because they're looking at something they want and they choose. I left before the sky went black. That was mercy for me, not her. On the drive home, I did a thing I'm ashamed of, which is that I practiced lines in my head. You know better. This is what it is. Who is he? Why weren't you enough? None of them sounded right. All of them sounded like the wrong person speaking through me. At the house, I tossed my shirt on the bed and showered. The water hissed. Steam turned the mirror into a fogged rectangle where my face was only a shape. I put on a clean t-shirt and went to the kitchen island. Granite, colder than the room. I set out the things I had like I was laying out tools in order. Door log screenshot. Gate entries printout, Venmo cash outs, Ubers. A still frame of the doorbell video, faces turned from the lens, but bodies telling all. Her stories with the timestamp you don't see unless you know where to look. I told myself I wasn't crazy. Crazy is forgetting. This was remembering. When she came in, the night was a heat blanket. The sound of cicadas was a machine. She stopped like she'd run into an invisible tripwire. "What's this?" she said. Her voice wasn't shocked. It was the tone people use when their latte is the wrong milk. It's tomorrow, I said. You promised we'd talk. She looked at the printouts like they were art she didn't get. Then she looked at me. You went through my money? Our money, I said, and I didn't go through it. It's an app. It's right there. We share. That's invasive. That's math, I said. Who is he? Her mouth did a small, sad thing, not for me, but for whatever inconvenience honesty might be about to cause her. She drew in a breath. Let it out. The air hummed. Fine, she said. You want it? Here it is. She put her hand on the counter, close to a water ring, and traced it with her thumb like it might disappear if she moved differently. I liked your life, Ryan. Your business, your house. It was stable. It looked the way safety looks. And I thought, okay, I can be safe and still be me. But you're heavy. You're an anchor. You pull me down into your days and they smell like oil and heat and people who don't tip. And him? I asked. My voice was even. I scared myself a little. He makes me feel like I'm walking into the picture, she said. She smiled, small. And yes, years ago before you, there was a short thing with him. 3 months. It's not. Whatever you'll make it in your head. It ended. We never really... She waved her hand. It's ancient history. Is it? I said. We kissed, she said. We've kissed a few times since. It's complicated. Most bad things are, I said. She looked at the stack of paper like a bored student who wanted to leave class. Are you proud? She asked. You collected the dots. You connected them. Does it make you feel like a man again? I never stopped being one, I said. I stopped being happy. You think I'm happy? She asked. She laughed, not like the canyon, more like something brittle snapping. Do you think any of this is easy? Do you think it's fun to be 29 and realize the life you want is out there and you might miss it if you make a wrong turn? I didn't marry you to hurt you. What did you marry me for? I asked. She looked at the island. The fridge kicked on. A landing, she said. I waited for my anger to arrive, the way summer storms arrive here. Black line on the horizon, wind that smells like dust, a smack of rain that makes drivers forget how to merge. It didn't. What came instead was a clarity so bright it made the kitchen look different. I saw my own hands on the counter. I saw a house I loved, suddenly full of someone else's weather. Then land somewhere else, I said. I kept my voice low. It's the only way certain machinery responds. Pack a bag tonight. We'll figure out the rest like adults, paperwork, and whatever. I'll sleep in the shop for a few days if you need time. You're kicking me out? She said. She tried on outrage. It didn't fit. I'm asking you to respect that I'm not a shadow you step through to get to the stage, I said. I'm here. I'm real. This is my home, and the person I share it with doesn't open the door at 1 a.m. to anyone but me. You're being dramatic. I'm being done, I said. Her eyes watered. I watched to see if they would fall. They didn't. She folded her arms, then unfolded them, looked at the stack again, and said, You don't have to be cruel. I'm being kind, I said, and was surprised to find I meant it. If you leave tonight, we don't have to talk about who did what in which room. You can keep your dignity. So can I. Fine, she said. She lifted her bag. Fine. She slept in the guest room. I lay on my back and watched the ceiling fan turn as if a slow helicopter was forever trying to rescue us and never could. At 5001 a.m., I got up. Phoenix was gray, then blue, then white hot. By 8008 a.m., it was 1:02. By noon, 11:02. By noon, 11:10. The air hummed so loud it felt physical. She came into the shop around 2, with a box under her arm and another in her hand. The swaying heat outside had put a sheen on her forehead. She set the boxes on the counter where I keep the spark plugs. Don't, she said. Just that. Then, in the heat, As if the temperature itself forced honesty out of her like sweat, she said, "I liked your business and your house, not you. And yes, there was a short thing with him years ago. Are you happy? Is the script complete?" I needed to hear it, I said. "You need to fix things," she said. She smiled, that mouth-only smile. "Now you fix this. Congratulations." "Jenna," I said. Her name felt like a socket I'd stripped. "Go." She left the keys to the second car on the counter. Sunlight pushed in under the bay doors and made a sharp line across the concrete. Luis looked at me from his side of the shop like a man glancing up during a storm to see if his roof still holds. "You want to break something?" he asked. "No," I said. "I want to build." It's strange, the relief that follows a definitive answer. It's not joy. It's not even calm. It's empty air where the question used to live, and you keep turning to talk to it, and it's not there. You feel dumb and free at the same time. I worked until 8 that night, the shop radio playing an old station that someone else had left on. Songs about trains and back roads and girls with good hearts. I locked up and went home. The house breathed differently. I took the second blanket off the bed and folded it once and put it in the closet. It felt like moving furniture after a funeral. The papers were easy in a way I didn't expect them to be. There's a clinical comfort in forms. You check boxes, you sign, you send. She hired an attorney who had a website with a photo of a mountain and the words "compassionate solutions." We split everything that made sense to split. She left behind little things that didn't weigh much, but did. A bobby pin under the sink, a candle that smelled like pears, a note for the house cleaner with a smiley face at the end. I moved the master bed to the other wall. I bought a used grill from a guy on Craigslist who told me I looked like I needed ribs. I did. My mom came by with her smoker and a loaf of bread that could make a person cry. She looked at me, not the way moms look at their sons, but the way people look at engines they love. Listen for what's healthy, listen to the hum. "You're not broken," she said in the doorway. "You're bent." "Bent? I can fix," I said. Church folks say the desert teaches you about yourself. They're right. You learn that water tastes like a miracle, and shade is a blessing, and the line between standing and crumpling is thinner than you think until you're at it. I went to the shop early and stayed late because when your hands move, your mind stays where your hands are. I started stopping by a small bar in Tempe on Fridays, the kind of place with a stage the size of a living room rug and a band with a stand-up bass that thumped like a heart you could see. I sat by the door so I could watch people come in, construction workers with forearms like the supports of a bridge, teachers with tired eyes that lit when the singer hit a note right, girls in sandals who laughed into each other's hair. I nursed a beer and let the music tune the parts in me that had been clanging. One Friday, the singer asked if anyone played. It was dumb and sudden like most good decisions. I stood. I've played enough guitar to keep time, not enough to show off. The first chord sounded like something true. People clapped after even though the song only had 2 chords. When I stepped off, a woman at the bar with ink at her wrist said, "You looked scared." "I was," I said. "You sounded honest," she said. "That's rarer." Her name was Maddie. She taught art at a middle school and said things like, "All 8th graders are 2 minutes from crying or flying." She came by the shop the next week with coffee and asked me what the difference was between a carburetor and a heart. I told her one mixes fuel and air, and the other mixes fear and air, and you hope both burn clean. She laughed, a warm sound that didn't bounce off me and run away. She bought spark plugs for a car that didn't need them just to have an excuse to come back. I still have them in a drawer. I don't know if this becomes anything. It doesn't have to yet. It can just be a person in a room with you who doesn't pull your hand away when you put it on the table. I moved the shop to a space closer to Tempe when a lease opened. The bay doors face a west wind that in winter smells like dust and oranges from a grove that's down to a handful of trees and stubborn hope. I put my name on the glass in letters I painted myself. It looks wobbly and right. On Saturdays, a kid from ASU comes in and changes oil and tells me about his road trips like a person trains for happiness. On Sundays, I take the old Chevy project out, the one Louise shot in Goodbye Blue. She is stubborn and loud and proud to be alive, like anyone worth loving. Every so often, I see a clip from one of Jenna's listings. Her voice is a gloss on top of glass. Sometimes the light is pretty. Sometimes I think about the version of me she stood next to on the canyon rim, and I want to step into that picture and shake him by the shoulders and say, "Hold her hand if you want, but don't grip so hard you miss the part where she tries to slip." You can make 1,000 metaphors out of cars. I'll give you one. When an engine starves for oil, it keeps running for a bit. It sounds almost normal, and if you crank the radio, you can convince yourself it's fine. Then it seizes, and you can't pretend anymore. If you're lucky, you catch it before it welds itself together and shreds. If you're lucky, you get to rebuild. The last time I had to pass through Paradise Valley for a mobile battery job, I drove by a house with a lighted pool and glass walls, and that particular look money gives a place, like climate control for feelings. I turned the radio down and rolled the window up and thought about shade. Shade is lovely. Shade is also just the place the sun hasn't hit yet. I don't live there anymore. The heat broke in late September, like a fever finally sweating itself out. I grilled ribs on my mom's smoker, and Maddie came by with a bowl of something that made the house smell like rosemary and a late morning. We ate off paper plates on the tailgate of the Chevy, grease on our fingers, the shop radio playing a song with a steel guitar that sounded like forgiveness. The night hummed low, not the bad hum, the alive kind. I don't hold doors for shadows. I won't again. When the door opens now, it's for a person who knows how to stand in it with me and feel the air move and not be afraid of what that means. If you've ever stood at the edge of something big, you know your voice sounds different when it comes back to you. I'm learning to like mine again. My hands smell like oil. My heart doesn't smell like smoke. That's enough. The rest is work I know how to do. Would you have wanted me to expose her in front of that pool and those people? Or was closing the door the better kind of justice? Where's the line between being patient with someone's fear and letting them walk straight over you? Like, comment, and subscribe if you want more stories like this and the next chapter when it comes.